Hello everyone, we are here at the European Youth Portal by Eurodesk and by the European Commission. And
you said a lot of difficult words at once, but continue saying it. I needed to interfere. Wherever there is a lot of difficult words at once, I need to interfere.
Okay. And we are trying to record a podcast that will explain young people more about how they can participate in politics. For that, we have Fidias, a member of the European Parliament, and we have Chloé, that is mostly known on Instagram by the Green Monkey. And she's an activist for the climate and trying to also bring transparency to Brussels and to the EU bubble. So welcome, thank you very much both of you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you also Jesus, the assistant from Fidias that allowed us to be here together.
Okay, thank you also.
Thank you, Jesus.
Jesus. It's very important to have great team members. It's the key to everything.
Yes, and from what I understood, Fidias, before being in the European Parliament, you already had a team, and you tried to bring some people that you already knew, that you already trusted, and you would do a great job, right?
Well, first of all, hello people. We're here in the European Parliament. It's a place for more adults, I would say. I think it's missing the spirit that we... if you see everyone in the corridors, they look... Okay, the average MEP age is 50 years old. So it's missing this kind of... I think democracy should be also representative democracy, represent all the aspects of the people. And I think youth are a bit underrepresented here in the European Parliament. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this with young people like us, but let's hear also, tell us briefly what you do in your life.
Oh, yeah, sure. I can tell you what I'm doing briefly with my life. So I'm an environmental and social justice activist. I'm based here in Brussels.
What does that mean?
It basically means, as an activist...
Thunberg.
Yeah, sort of, exactly. But my focus is the EU level. So I've worked in European NGOs on climate and environmental topics for 6 years. And I have an account on Instagram, so I'm a content creator. And basically what I talk about...
How many followers you have?
81,000. And basically we talk about...
Followers doesn't matter,
no,
but
it doesn't.
It shows how active you are.
No, but
I think it
also shows that people care about European politics, because what we hear all the time is that it's too complicated, it's too far away, people don't care. But actually, when you mainstream it and you explain it, people care. And what I talk about is European politics, so what happens, European climate politics, but also lobbying. That's my favorite topic. Lobbying and corruption, including inside the European Parliament.
Teach us.
Yeah, that's also how I found Chloé. Chloé is very active on Instagram, and a lot of things are about climate, but the Meet Your Lobbyists mini-series of Reels is how I found her, and everybody knows that lobbies exist. If you ask the common person, do you know what the lobby is? We're like, oh yeah, the corruption guys, they pay politicians, but they will not know for sure what the lobby is, then their names, how they are acting in real life, and Chloé tries to bring more about it and say, these are their names, this is how much they are meeting with the Commission and with the Parliament, and so for me that was a great way to understand that topic.
Interesting. So you are covering how lobbying works in the way the NGOs, how much money in the way they spend?
Well, I mean, right now we're talking a lot about the NGOs, but just to give a little bit of numbers so that people understand, right? So Brussels is the second capital of lobbying in the world. The first one is Washington. Exactly. And so basically there's thousands of people. It's estimated between 30 and 40,000 people that are here as lobbyists. And the vast majority...
Which is more... There are more lobbyists than actual people working in the European Parliament.
Yeah, in the European Parliament, yes. But it's also almost the same number as people working inside the Commission. So it's for the Parliament, we say 1 lobbyist with a badge. 10 lobbyists with a badge for every MEP. So imagine, that's a lot of people.
A lot of influence.
A lot of influence. And basically, in the transparency register, which is where lobbies have to say, oh, we're lobbying MEPs or commissioners, there's about 12,000 organizations, and 2/3 are private interest organizations. So not NGOs, not people who are fighting for the public good.
Where is it from?
2/3.
1/3, where is it from?
1/3 is non-commercial interest. So let's say NGOs, or if you represent, I don't know, if you represent an environmental organization or human rights organization, that kind of stuff, a trade union, that's also non-commercial interest. And basically, how much money is spent on lobbying in Brussels? It's insane. How much would you say is spent every year on lobbying?
Well, that's an interesting question. Let's say $1 billion?
$1.3 billion. So you were super close. That's a lot of money. And basically, it's used to influence MEPs and commissioners.
Considering that our salaries of all the MEPs every year is around that, a bit more than that. So it's crazy that
Yeah.
there is this much.
And
money.
you're right to talk about MEPs because there's also a recent study by
MEPs,
Transparency.
ladies and gentlemen,
members of the European Parliament.
members of the
Yeah.
European Parliament.
Yeah, you're right.
I forced myself to say this.
You're right.
You need Fidia not to become in the bubble. Always forget
You're right.
MEPs. Nobody
Yeah.
the fuck knows.
No, you're right.
Before I came, I didn't even know that the European Parliament exists.
Existed, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to remind myself.
But you're
because
completely
in
right.
communication, when we communicate with the people, nobody knows about
No,
this.
it's true.
And this is one of the best parts about Fidias. Is Fidias didn't know much about politics before coming here, and that was his
And
platform.
still, I don't know a lot. There is so much to learn.
You're learning every day, huh? It's like a learning curve. Everybody who enters Brussels, they're like learning.
But everyone learns every day.
Everyone.
Yeah, and
And
as you are learning, you are explaining people like me that are just at home in
Yeah.
Portugal, like very far away from Brussels. Cyprus is as well. And you are teaching us, oh, this is how the voting works. This is one of my favorite topics as well.
But you know what's the problem is with the EU and the communication? We all have our own languages.
Yeah.
And it's like my videos cannot reach all the countries. But this one, and that's why I think there is not also a common European culture in a way. We don't share the same values in a way. We are very diverse, and also we have different values in Italy. And Cyprus is closer, Germany is very different, and like we have a lot of different values. But I think, and also I think that's why there is a lot of misconceptions in European politics because everyone cares about their own country in a way, and there is not a lot of common things. But and also it's like in a way misconception. I mean, when you are elected in your country with the party, you know that a lot of the times it's crazy. The party policies, the local party in your country, have a lot of different policies than the European thing.
Yes.
So there is a lot of misconception between the European Party. When you come in the European Parliament, you attend a political group with the and they are, and this is a big misconception. There is, but you know, I've been trying a long time to see how to because I don't know a lot of things. It's true. But like you know. I understand that you cannot know everything in the world.
Of course, nobody.
So I'm very happy with the stuff that I do know, which is about social media. We can have policies about freedom of speech and all this stuff, which are like important things. So I say that I don't know, but a lot of my colleagues, they're just afraid to say that they don't know. They pretend that they know everything in a way. So what I was trying to say is that I've been trying to think for a long time now because I don't know if you agree. I think we have trouble in Europe. We are not in a very good direction. We are kind of, we don't have a leader. Like we are just in a way lost in the way the alignment with United States that we had a great alliance is now not as good as
it doesn't exist anymore. But
So I
Being
think
broken
we also the war that we have with Ukraine, all this, that there's a lot of problems. So I've been trying to understand here from the inside of the European Parliament how the fuck we fix this European politics. And you know, it's very difficult because how you convince the entire European population that they speak 24 different languages to be on the same page, to vote for the same issues that actually impact the EU. Because I can explain, because I'm like very famous in Cyprus, I can explain to all the population with a single video what are the problems, and I can, not half of the population, let's say, that I can do, but I cannot do the same in Spain,
in Belgium, in Denmark.
So, you know, what I thought about is the way to fix European politics is by creating a party in every single, the same party in every single European country, like Volt.
Like Volt, that's what
like
it exists. Volt
but
exists.
not as successful. They are like they have like I think five MEPs.
Yeah, but that's
now.
pretty good for a new party. Huh?
But it's been 10 years almost that they do it, and also they lost the numbers now in the German politics.
They are growing, and I can talk about Volt because I'm a member of Volt.
Oh, really?
That context,
That's cool.
But
tell us about it.
In Germany, they got around 3% for the Bundestag, for the Parliament of Germany. and before it was like 1%. But in Germany, to
Did
get
they got
inside,
that much?
You need 5, right?
yeah, you need 5%. And if you get 5%,
Are you
will
sure
get like
that Volt-
32 MEPs. Yeah.
I'm going to ChatGPT while
Let's go. Okay, ChatGPT, but it goes to sources, so
Yeah.
let's see what it happens. But so yeah, what I say is that Volt is not enough because Volt represents my ideas for
Yeah.
Europe. But we need European parties that act like Volt, but that have the other ideas that
Yeah.
I don't agree so much with. But so we can have a European debate. And Fidias, you said that we don't have a leader. I mean, we have Ursula von der Leyen, but
and Kaja Kallas, you forgot.
and Kaja Kallas and Antonio Costa from Portugal,
Yeah.
but they are not speaking at a unified voice, and the member states always have the last word. And because of that, it's difficult to have a
So
common policy.
the federal elections here, it says they got 0.7 in Germany. Here, the 2025. So because so you were wrong that they got 3%.
Yeah,
they
then I
got
am-
2.6 in the European elections in 2024.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
that they were
Maybe, I
went
mean,
down.
I can tell you what I think is wrong with Europe, and there's a lot of things that are wrong with Europe. I think the fact that citizens don't feel connected to Europe is because I think European representatives, including members of the European Parliament, for a very long time, they've done a shitty job at going back to their country and explaining what was happening.
With
Yeah.
communication.
Right? Yeah, with communication, it was horrible. They were very happy to be here in Brussels when no one was really checking what they were doing and going back to their country.
It's the best hidden vacation place to go for politicians.
For a long time, you know what they were saying? This is where they send the old retired national
Yeah.
politicians
Yes.
to Brussels.
To
So
say
I think
thank
that
you
was
to them
problematic.
of their service.
Then there's the problem of the national media, that very few of them actually report on what's happening in Brussels, right? If you look at the national media here in Brussels, usually they have like 1 or max 2 correspondents that have to follow everything: environment, defense, agriculture, and all of that. And then there's also, so these are the main reasons for me, I feel, but there's also the fact that there's a very strong push by some anti-European forces to basically just push an anti-European discourse in a lot of countries. And that is on traditional media, but that is also on social media. If you look, there's been a massive increase of content, basically that is anti-Europe, that is being pushed. And you know that, right? Because you know social media really well. There's like algorithm bubble, right? So if you start looking at some content and you find it interesting and you interact with it, this is all the type of content that you're going to be presented with. So usually for people who are sort of feeling anti-European, then
They will
they've
be
been
more
confirmed.
anti-European.
And like what I say, and a lot of people when they see my videos, they're like, oh, but you must hate Europe. Europe is horrible. And I always tell them, no. You know, my relationship with Europe is like, you know, when you have a friend that has a really horrible behavior, and you do an intervention. You know, you say, oh, you drink too much, or you party too much. You know, you do that, you stage an intervention. That's what I want
But
to do.
you are still friends.
Yeah, you're still friends.
When
and
you
that's what I
love
wanna do with
something, you
Europe.
want to improve it, you want to
Exactly,
change it.
Exactly.
Like,
I don't want no Europe. I want a better Europe that is more democratic, more connected to citizens.
But I'm very confused. You said what was you explained the problem with communication so many years, that's one problem. But so you said that the MEPs did a horrible job and then you went forward to explain about some representatives that they explain things
from
that,
the
that I
media.
didn't
From the
really-
media,
So
from
if
the
you
so
have
like
the-
correspondence, you know, when
Yeah.
national media send
Okay,
correspondence to Brussels.
the EU
There's very
represented-
little.
okay.
So I mean, I don't know if
Yeah,
it's like in Cyprus, but you never watch the news
It's
in Europe.
crazy. I find this also strange. Like, let's say on average, 30 to 50% of laws are passed by the European
Yeah.
Parliament on every member state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the member state politics get disproportionate more media coverage instead of the
Yeah.
EU. So
And at the EU level, you're saying 30 to 50%, but when you look at environmental regulations, for instance, it's so important. 80% of environmental regulation goes through the EU. So if you want to have an impact there, or like even agriculture, you can't talk about agriculture just at the national level.
So I want to talk about climate change to hear your thoughts. What do you think is the problem? Do you think we're doing enough? Do you think that is the climate change problem at all?
Yeah, but
Yes,
but-
spoiler alert, yes.
yeah, and while doing that, tell us a bit more about why you started at all. Like,
but,
was it climate change that motivated you to get into politics, to
Yeah.
participate, or was it something else and then you found climate change?
No. It was definitely sort of, so I don't come from not at all from a political family, right? No one really cares about politics in my family. And then when I was younger, there was, I don't know if you guys remember, I think you're slightly younger
How
than me.
old are you?
I'm 31.
Wow.
There was the Nutella Gate. I don't know if you remember that, but everybody
Gate.
Nutella Gate, because there was this huge scandal around palm oil, and palm oil was in Nutella. So everybody was like, "Stop eating Nutella because it's causing deforestation." And I was like, "Oh God, this is crazy." And I've always been super sensitive to injustice, like when I think something is unfair. And so I started, like a lot of people, right? You start pulling on one basically threads and you realize that everything
There's
is connected,
more, yeah.
right? So I studied law first, and then I was like, yeah, I don't want to become a lawyer.
Same.
Yeah, so basically, and I went into environmental science, so I studied the science. And I was like, oh yeah, things are really, really bad. And that's when I started committing as an activist. So first I did marches, and then
What you did?
marches, like protests in the streets, like a lot of people did. And then I did a bunch of other stuff. I created collectives. I joined NGOs to work on
Collectives
advocacy.
means?
Citizens collective. So when citizens
Group
get
of people.
together to campaign.
Signature? Oh, yeah,
So
collective.
yeah, collectives like to go and annoy the
Okay.
MEP and stuff like that. And
To
then
go and annoy the
Annoy
MEP.
MEP.
yeah, of course,
like
annoy the
now.
MEPs. That's what I do.
In what way?
So to get them to be more ambitious, like when we were campaigning on the nature restoration law, for instance, 2 years ago, we actually went to Strasbourg with a lot of activists, including Greta, actually. And we were like running around the European Parliament and knocking on doors and talking to MEPs and saying, this is a really important law. You need to pass it because of this, 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 and this. And it worked. It passed by like 30 votes, which was super, super tight. So for me, the European level and the politics are super important if you care about environment and climate. And you can't, and even just like fairness in general. So you can't disconnect these issues from the political level. So if you really want change, you have to get engaged at the political level. And that doesn't necessarily mean joining a party or like joining politics. You can also do this from the outside. And I feel like that's where I'm the most impactful right now. Like it would be interesting to hear your thought as an inside person. But for me, I was always wondering like, where do I have the most impact? And right now, at least, for me, it's on the outside.
I don't think you are right. I think the most impact is from the inside, because when you combine both of the income
Yeah, I
of
think
the
you need to
videos
combine, yeah.
and inside, it's like now I have every MEP that I want to talk about, they accept.
Yeah.
And they want to do it because I'm popular in social media and all this stuff. So it's like you have double the impact with the social media, and being in a position of power is a killer combination.
Yeah, but you're a little bit, you're different for many reasons, but you're also different because you don't belong to a party. So I think you also have a freedom to say more things. If you belong to a party, there would be a lot of things that
It depends on the party. There is
depends on the
a party
party.
that allow you freedom, and like for example, if you were in the Greens,
Yeah, because
I
you
think
thought about joining
because
the
you
Greens.
align with their values for the most part. I think it depends on.
But there's also parties, like if you look at, for instance, there was an article a few days ago, right, that showed how the EPP, so the Conservatives, for those who don't know.
EPP is like the right, but
Center right.
is the biggest
Yeah,
group in the European
it's massive.
Parliament.
And
They have around 198.
Yeah, they're massive.
If you want to go to the European Parliament, find the biggest slice of pizza,
Yeah,
and
it's
you know
basically-
that's the team of Ursula von der Leyen, basically.
Yeah, and basically they have internal rules that were leaked that say that if you're an MEP, a member of the European Parliament, and you don't follow the party line, then you're going to be sanctioned, which means you won't have important roles. So you won't be able to lead on a file,
that's-
you won't be able to speak in plenary, and that is, I think, extremely problematic, because it means that MEPs cannot break the party line. If they want to be important in the party, they need to follow the line. And I
And
think
then you
that's...
need to see who defines the party line,
Yeah,
who is
and-
really in charge,
and right
who's
now-
telling the MEPs who to vote for.
And right now, it's like 3 German conservatives are running Europe. Ursula von der Leyen, Manfred Weber, who is the head of DPP, and then Friedrich Merz in Germany.
I'm not sure if they're running in Europe. They're too strong to run Europe. But yeah, you are right. And that's why one of the reasons that I didn't join a political group. Like, I think EPP is a lot more strict. I think there is groups that are a bit less strict with the freedom that they give you. But yeah, it's crazy for them to control. And they don't do it in exactly the way sanction them. They do it in very more sneaky ways. They exclude them for stuff. They don't support their amendments. They don't tell them. There is a lot of ways that they do it in a sneaky way.
Which is crazy.
Which is not cool. Like,
No.
Yeah, but
you are not free.
I follow you, and I saw that you were maybe joining the Greens But my question is, did you want to? Because in the end, the decision was a poll. You would let people vote. That's something you do. And people said, no, you should remain non-affiliated. But did you want to join the Greens?
Well, I will play the politician. And say, what a great segment you gave me to answer. But yeah, so I think I don't like too much power because power corrupts and absolute power collapses absolutely. I believe this is very true. So I think a way to move power from politicians and give it back to the people is what we need now in 2025. And this started in Greece. Like it was the first kind of direct democracy. Okay, women, they were not allowed to vote. And also the slaves were not allowed to vote.
That's excluding a lot of people.
We don't want that.
Nope, thank you.
It started in Greece. And also I speak Greek. I consider myself a Greek Cypriot. And like I want to bring kind of a direct democracy system kind of back. So now
you have an app for that. You are building an app.
Yeah, we built an app in Cyprus, and now people are voting exactly what I'm going to vote in the parliament in some way.
So you give them the information about the files?
I make a video, I explain what is the vote, and I'd say, yeah, vote, yes, no, or abstention. And this is a very interesting way to do it, but this is just a prototype. We want to test it also. I don't know, we're thinking to create, now we have elections in 1 year in my country. I don't know if this is 100%, but we're thinking to create this party online, and it will be in an app, and you can, every citizen can apply to be an MP of this party. And other people, anyone.
Yeah, like,
and other people will vote
the Fidias Parliament, no?
What?
It's the Fidias Parliament because...
Not the Fidias Parliament, the direct democracy, let's say. And then it will
but then
be
I have a question.
elected from the app, and then it will, I will not run this place because I don't want one person to run everything. I think this is not good. I want the people to also have some say in the manifesto and also the MPs that were elected. So I will be just a member of this thing. And what if we do this? The way to fix Europe, I think, is by replicating things like Volt, similar things, parties, in all the European countries. So if this works in a direct democracy thing, maybe we should do it to all the countries in Europe. I don't know. It's a prototype. The software needs to work, and the application needs to work. It needs to be successful in Cyprus. But this is an interesting attempt that we are trying to make politics more fun. And
I have a question. Right, so, because on paper it sounds good, right? But what do you do when, because people make their decisions based on their own bias, right? Like they make the decision based on their individual experience, for sure.
Like politicians?
Yeah, sure, but like also on the level, the information that they're reading, they're consuming on social media, etc. So what do we do when we know that the information that people are getting, and there's like proof of that, is getting more and more influenced by possibly, just to give you one example, is like foreign influence, right? Like we know Russia, to name it, has been involved in several elections by sharing a lot of fake news on social media and telling people, this is what's happening. So what do we, because in an ideal world, everyone would be on the same level of information, have same like unbiased information, and then being able to make their own decision based on that. But what do we do when we know that people are targeted by news by some people who have a very specific agenda?
Yeah, but I think you need to consider Fidias, like the politicians also consume the news in a biased way with the algorithms and everything. So,
but let's
they have also.
Let's go one step back and say I think this is improving. If you say 20 years ago that we only had TVs, it was still countries controlling the narrative. They can.
Well, you have private and public
only
channels.
TV, and then they can still control the narrative. Now it's a bit more difficult to control the narrative because you have a free, in a way, social media that you can upload your stuff. I'm just saying this problem is improving. I don't know, do you agree or disagree?
No, I think it's actually getting worse. Like the amount of fake news that we face with social media, it's exploded. Because
but
at least 20 years
when
ago...
you had one channel of information and they told you the truth,
but it wasn't...
Like you couldn't question it, you couldn't have an argument.
Yeah, but if it's public channel, if it's like, I don't know, RTBF or like France Télévisions, whatever, the name, I don't know what the name in Cyprus is for national TV, it's fact-checked, right? They are like journalists doing the work. If you do.
But
and
who
then
controls the media?
Fact
but you
check
can say,
is an interesting.
you can say that journalists are biased, but right now it's literally anyone can create an account, anyone in Russia or wherever can create an account and specifically target you with those fake news. So you're more likely to be faced with that than if you watch TV.
I don't say we don't need to attack this. I'm saying that this is a problem, and also Twitter, I think, I was talking with their team, and they told me that they banned, I think it was 2 million accounts in the United States elections from bots. I think, I don't know if it was from Russia or something. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I'm saying is basically true. And so we are against this. We want to fix this. We want the social media to be more aggressive and develop mechanisms. But I'm just saying this is better.
Yeah, but they're going in the other direction. Like if you look at.
But that's coming to kind of the topic that I have in my heart, which is freedom of speech. I disagree with you actually, 100% that we have a problem here. We need to allow free information to flow, and we don't need to censor information. And
but including hateful and violent and like discriminatory.
Who decides what is hateful?
Well, I mean, on a lot of things you've got the law. Like there's a lot of things that you cannot say according to the law because they're discriminatory.
Okay, I'm okay with the law.
sexist.
I'm okay with the law, but you know, in the DSA there is 3 keywords. DSA is the Digital Service Act, which is talking basically about how do we moderate not only content, what we allow on our media and all this stuff. So, and it says misinformation there that is not allowed. It said disinformation and malinformation. What does that even mean? But like, let's speak about misinformation. Like a lot of the times, the truth is not, it needs to be debated. Like for example, about COVID vaccines, like they censored a lot of stuff about COVID vaccines. Mark Zuckerberg came and said this, that the United States government forced him to censor millions of posts that they said that the vaccine have side effects. If you disagree or agree with this vaccine, is a different story. But to censor something that is true, they have side effects. If you agree about vaccines or not, it's a different story. But vaccines have side effects. So I'm just saying here that it's very difficult to just say, this is the truth and I know the truth. So we need to allow a public debate. We need to allow everyone to speak in social media. And this misinformation, I think, is a tricky word for the Commission and for the countries to have power to censor stuff that they want.
Yeah, but if you...
But it's an interesting debate.
You said there's no, it's a very interesting debate.
You are getting a bit excited, and I like it.
I think it's an interesting debate. I think it's a very interesting debate. I think for me there are some stuff that are the truth, and those cannot be debated, such as science, for instance.
No,
I mean, the fact that
science is also debated.
Let me finish.
Science is built on a debate.
Let me finish. Today, there's 99.99999% of scientists that are saying that climate change is human-made, right? That there's been indeed variations in CO over the years, that's a fact, but never at a scale and at a speed that we're seeing now. Like it's been like this, blah, 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 for millions of years, and now it's like this for the past 50 years. So they all agree that it's linked to human activities, right? So when there's a difference between one scientist having an opinion or a theory and what you call a consensus. So when a vast majority, this is what's called a consensus. And to me, a consensus is not debatable. Then you can say if one scientist has a theory. And then you just mentioned, so you're saying like the truth can be debatable, but when you were talking about COVID vaccine, you're like, you can disagree or agree on vaccines. Sure, of course. I mean, you can decide not to get your kids vaccinated, that's another story. But then you said, but vaccines have side effects. And like that was a fact, right? You posed it like this. You're like, you can disagree, but vaccines have side effects. So that is something that is a truth to you, right? So that's not debatable, as you said it, because vaccines have side effects. And that is not debatable. So you see some stuff, because we have empirical studies, because we have a lot of people who have looked at it, for me, there's a massive difference between truth and opinions. And if we start saying that everything can be an opinion, then we have a problem, because it means that there's no like a common basis for discussion in societies. And everyone can say, no, my opinion is my truth. And how do you move forward with this? Like, it'd be interesting.
Are
to
you
hear your thoughts.
ready?
Yes, sure, sure.
Okay. So, by the way, you can say what, also jump in the debate
Yes, of
if
course.
you want. But so I think it's Galileo that he said that we are not the center of the Earth is not the center of the universe, and they put him in prison because the consensus were saying
No,
that.
it was one theory. That's the difference between.
No, all the consensus were saying that we are the center of the universe. Like that was. And before they were saying that the Earth is flat and all this stuff.
That the what?
So
The
Earth is flat.
Earth is flat, yeah.
Before. So if you take the science and you see a lot of the times that we assume that something was true, it was not true. So how science works is you need to be able to falsify the other theory and to be able to prove the other theory. Maybe you come up with better one. So that's what you're saying. That's why always the truth is debatable in a way. You can debate, you can question.
But how do you move forward as a society if everything
By the way, I
is
don't disagree
debatable?
with you on the climate change, by the way, to just clarify
Thank you.
that.
And just to say, Fidias said falsify, so you can look up Karl Popper, falsification, and they will understand what he's talking about. It's basically for something to be able to be a truth or like a fact, a true fact or false fact, you have to be able to prove that it is one or another.
But this is what scientists do all the time. They make comes up with one paper, scientific paper, and the others, they're saying why is bad.
Yeah, but
So
that's why in climates, it's literally probably one of the biggest consensus. So if you start questioning everything, every consensus that's been in the climate community for like 20, 30, 40 years.
I'm sorry.
And also,
I'm sorry, we need to question everything. I'm sorry.
I disagree with that, because then you cannot move forward as a society.
Because then we are going to be stuck that the Earth is the center of the universe.
Okay,
I'm
Fidias,
sorry.
one question. I see both sides, and one thing that goes on Fidias' side is that if everyone debates, probably there will be a new consensus. The thing is, what if the new consensus that if everyone agrees with, or most people agree with, is just false, it's just not correct, and then we die? Like, maybe the consensus actually is wrong.
What if happens the opposite?
I guess we die in both scenarios.
Okay, so
everybody dies anyway.
But I will ask you.
But let's take a step back. I think we express both our arguments. It's not up to us to decide who is right or wrong. It's up to the audience to decide who is right or wrong, or what their opinion should be about freedom of speech. Should be freedom of speech with a limit, like for disinformation and we explain.
But so you agree just on like what's considered by the law, just to be clear.
Yeah, but
like,
what's
on
considered
law,
by the law, and we need
shouldn't
to fix the laws. Like, for example, we ban Russian social media in Europe, and I am against that.
Yeah.
But that's a law. They made this
But
a
on
law
racism,
that we,
like on-
so I'm okay with that because the law. Because
but if someone
they
says something that is like besides Russia and all of this, like if someone says something that is racist or like discriminatory towards a community,
if it's the law, then I'm okay to follow the law.
Yeah,
I'm okay to follow the law.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying a law because it became a law now for misinformation and malinformation is a long interpretation of how freedom of speech.
Okay,
a wrong
but
interpretation.
the idea is freedom of speech. If it must be
we can jump in a
absolute.
different debate if you want. We have a lot of that. We can.
Yeah, but just to see if it's absolute. The thing here is like hate speech is not in the DSA. You mentioned malinformation, disinformation, and the other one.
I think also it's in the DSA. The
hate speech? I think
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
But let's double check that, someone.
No, because if it is, then we need to define. You said who defines what that is. And the law, the judges will say something, and some judges will be more liberal, some will be more conservative.
And then it's up to the country to interpret it, and then it's up to a
the ECJ,
president of a country to say, okay, this is misinformation, saying bad things about me, please ban it. And you give them the opportunity to use the rule of law
Hate speech
against
is in the law.
I think.
Yeah, no,
I know
just besides the DSA, at the national level, I know that I
national level
cannot
it
go
is.
on Twitter, for instance, and say
Some people should die because
some
they
people
are
should
this.
die because they have this color of skin or their gender.
I think these are not.
This is just so we're on the same basis.
I'm not informed enough on the DSA, but I know that the national law that is the thing.
Yeah.
But in this climate, by the way, it's called liquid society. This idea that there is not one truth. At least people do not agree that there's just one truth. There's like alternative truth, alternative facts.
And always there is gray zones as well. It's not black and white. It's not.
But the idea is, how can young people navigate this? How can young people know, like, if I cannot trust anything, if I should question everything, and I don't even know anything, I'm going to go online and I'm going to research about this, and these ones say A, this say B. How can I just know?
Well, that's why you want to.
No, go for it.
That's why I think one of the biggest problems that we are facing in Europe that not a lot of people talk about is education. Our educational system sucks in most countries, not in all the countries. Like, because it doesn't teach us, like, first of all, kids, they don't want to go to school. They're learning majority of their stuff that they're learning online instead of the school. So we need to kind of prepare the society for what is coming, because it's not coming less information, it's coming more information in the future. So we need to develop this critical thinking and learning how to learn and navigate the world that we are living.
And fact check themselves, for example.
In the schools we learn, okay, stuff that you can ask ChatGPT immediately and know them, like just simple questions. You need to know how to navigate this world. And this is what we should teach the kids now. We shouldn't teach them anything, they should learn to learn by themselves.
Yeah.
So wait, so just to understand it correctly, so for instance, we don't teach them history classes because they could question what they're being told.
No. I'm just saying to teach them in an interesting way, because first of all, in any way that we teach them, if you ask them one month after the test, they will not know anything. Do you agree?
Most times. I think this is...
I think you remember some of the stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think also sometimes you remember stuff that is not very relevant. I remember all the kings of, many kings of Portugal.
Okay.
Many kings of Portugal,
Very
like
specific.
since like centuries and centuries ago. But we didn't learn enough about even like the European Union and how Portugal entered the European Union. But I think the skills are what you're talking about. Like how do I do research? How do I fact check? How do I apply things to real life?
We are not, now in the world, we're not thinking and learning facts. The learning happens through an interactive way. It's like, so maybe, I don't know, I'm presenting a new idea here. We like video games. What about a video game of history that you play and you learn the history with characters and you navigate as a video game and the kids play it in classroom? That they,
if it's made by proper historians and everything.
Yeah, this is more interactive way to learn.
And what is history?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
What is history?
What about...
The problem with this theory, but we always go back to the previous point, but my problem is that if we constantly questioning everything and if there can be like a million different truths, everything you're saying, I'm going to say the same thing, is like, okay, but what is telling us that this is the truth history, you know? What about alternative history? What about, and then, you know, and then everything gets questioned like that. And this is then my point, is like, how do we move forward as a society if we don't believe that there's a common basis that is facts and that is truth? And then that's the problem. And then you get people that mistrust each other on everything because they keep thinking that their neighbors, their friends, their families, everyone is sort of lying to them.
Okay, but to close this point.
Lose your trust if you are questioning that, okay, the war, World War II didn't happen. You're going to lose your trust. So in a community like this, nobody will, going to think that you're a psychopath and stupid. So you're going to lose your trust anyway. So you are not going to matter anyways if you have these stupid opinions. So that's why you need to find...
Look, there's a person with, in my opinion, stupid opinions that is now the president of the United States for the second time. Because a lot of stupid people voted for him. And a lot of people, intelligent people paid him to have the campaign that got him elected. So we cannot always be sure that the wrong side will lose. And that is one of the problems. But just to close this topic, because...
That's an interesting thing. That I think that's... Let's debate that. Being stupid is an interesting way. It's an interesting thought. Idiot, what do you mean by stupid? Define stupid. I'm not pro-Trump. I don't like him. Everything that he does. There is a lot of things that he does that I don't like. But we're coming back to questioning. What do you mean? Define stupid.
By stupid,
question.
I could spend hours saying...
You understand where I'm coming from? This is what I mean the debate, not just...
I could spend hours talking about why I think Trump is stupid, but we can go back to one very recent example.
Define stupid. I didn't say why Trump is stupid. Define stupid.
Okay, stupid. Something that is very wrong, clearly wrong, define wrong, that is not up to the date, that you think will have good results, but actually has very bad results. And everyone around you can see is going to mess up. Like if you see someone riding a bike with their head on the pedals, you know that's stupid because you know it's not going to work. And that's, for example, Trump with the tariffs, you know, like, oh, let's do the tariffs this way. And all the economists, all the professors, everyone is saying that's going to be a problem. And he does it anyway. And yeah, but just to close this topic, for young people, your recommendation on this would be...
Here it says stupid, ChatGPT.
Yeah, for young people, yeah. No, sorry, just because I also have to go in like 6 minutes.
So,
But should I
Stupid, yeah,
say
you can say.
that stupid generally refers to a lack of intelligence, understanding, or common sense. You are saying that stupid is taking wrong decisions, which is not exactly what it is.
Yeah, but then what is wrong?
So you see,
what is wrong? What is right?
You see here, this is always an interpretation. That's why we need to always have a debate. I'm just coming back to my point that's interesting. Let's discuss about it.
But
so
in that point,
just wanted to, anyway.
let's sum up that your recommendation for young people and people in general is that we should always be critical in thinking about stuff. So even if most people tell us something is true, we should still question it. And we should not be like completely convinced by it without checking the other side.
Well, I'm not sure if you should question gravity.
Well, I mean, you said science is
question things
questionable.
like that there's something behind them. Like I question what defines stupid, what you mean, and all this stuff. So I'm just like questioning sometimes is good because if you don't, the innovators always question stuff to do it in a different way. I'm just saying questioning is not bad.
Yeah. Okay. And then to close, because Chloé has to go, she has another event.
Chloé, hopefully we didn't make you too upset today.
Absolutely not. I would love to. I'd love to talk again.
This is amazing. This is what democracy is about, to fight about our ideas with love. I think we did it with love. It was not with hate that we did it, so it was beautiful.
Yes. So I guess it's important that people know if you recommend them to follow your path and your path. Like, would you say people should be more not like you? Should find a topic they love and create a social media account and start exploring it, for example?
I think on this, we're sort of similar. We come from a similar perspective, which is explain what happens in places of power so that people can feel more empowered and can feel closer to the people that their money is actually paying for. So I think on that point, we sort of come from a very similar perspective. And I don't think I wouldn't say to young people, do it more like Fidias or do it more like me. I don't think that makes sense.
Do it your own way.
But do it your own way, exactly. And so find, I think, a topic that you're passionate about, whether it's because of your own lived experience or because usually you go to activism because of anger or because of sadness or because of hope. All these feelings are very valid reasons for someone to commit to something. And then indeed, do it your own way. And that can be find a local group that acts on what you care about, or create your own group, create a group with your neighbor, or run for an MEP. But basically, if you want to change a situation, you got to put yourself in motion. You got to try to do something. And that can, once again, be anything. And then for me, to sort of conclude that, is there's a lot of young people who usually ask me, I feel really depressed about the state of the world. You know, it's not a very happy place to be in right now. So what can I do? And I always tell them the same thing is, get into motion and act. And because by doing something, first of all, you're going to feel like you're participating in changing the world that you don't like, which is the basis. Then usually you'll find people that, you know, will support you and that way you will share some common ground with, and that is the basis to be an activist in the long run, because we always say change is a marathon, it's not a sprint, right?
Not a sprint.
So you need to take care of your mental health, etc. So put yourself into motion, act at every level. Like the local level is super important, the regional level is super important. You don't need to be like immediately a super big shot, like you don't need to be a minister, a president, a super famous person on social media. Every step counts if you want to change the way the system works.
Okay, Fidias. Chloé mentioned some emotions: fear, anger,
hope,
sadness, hope.
Yeah.
What were your emotions running for MEP? Like you were already successful in life. You didn't have to be an MEP, but you were like, I want to do this. What was it?
Interestingness. I like the path that is interesting. I always choose what is going to be fun and interesting. And I think life will lead me in interesting directions if I don't put goals. But just to support just what Chloé said, I think I have a lot of billionaires friends. And they envy a bit this social media power. I think it's the new currency of the world, this attention. It's increasingly becoming a lot more important, maybe than billionaires that having money, because you have the attention of people and you can change the world in different ways. So this attention gets you, I don't know, elected or in important rooms, or it gets you to a position that you can influence the stuff. So I'm just saying that, no, it's not for everyone, social media, but I'm just saying that social media, it's a very powerful tool in the world.
So
right now.
young people that want to create difference, want to create change, should have social media accounts. And
They should
be
not
active.
do anything. They should do what they want, I think.
Yeah, but how do they get that attention then?
Because if you try to do stuff that other people you fancy, you need to first, like Socrates said, look into yourself, self-awareness, understand what is your superpowers, what you like, what you don't like, and then navigate with that in mind, instead of looking at other people and trying to do what me or Chloe is
That I
doing.
agree. Yeah.
Okay. I think they finally agreeing in something is a good way to close.
No, we
a lot of
agree
things.
most of the stuff. Chloe, I'm trying.
look.
We need to.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I was waiting for a high five.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So thank you again for coming. Chloe, I hope you make it on time to your event.
Excellent.
And thank you for your attention, because now I feel very powerful. Then see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thanks.